You are speaking the spell. You're not stuck because your life is conspiring against you, or that's your destiny. You're stuck because you keep repeating one sentence under pressure, and your nervous system believes it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to find that sentence, replace it, and then anchor it with Shaa'Vihra so your body actually holds the change. Your life doesn't change when you think new thoughts. It changes when your body can hold the signal those thoughts require, and your language is one of the fastest ways to tune the receiver. So just to keep it clear, when I say receiver, I mean your whole human system, nervous system, subconscious patterns, attention, and body. The party that translates signal into lived experience. So from my own experience, I didn't fail from lack of effort or discipline. I failed because the moment I tried to create change, my nervous system simply read it as a threat. And then without realizing it, I would speak myself back into the old pattern. So if you've ever had a moment of clarity where you just knew what you wanted, and then 2 hours later you were back in the loop, well, this video is for you. Because the problem isn't that you don't know. The problem is, under pressure, you subconsciously default to the old script. Today I'm discussing linguistic alchemy. This is not about affirmations, hype, or say this and your life magically changes. I'm talking about targeted language that changes your internal state, reduces interference, and creates a different default response under pressure. Because your inner language is never neutral. It's either stabilizing you or collapsing you. And here's the important part. I'm going to tie this directly to Shaa'Vihra because Shaa'Vihra was designed for this exact purpose, a language as vibration with breath and pattern. So it's not just better thoughts, it's a tuning method. Here's the frame. I discovered I wasn't living my life, I was living the sentence I would repeat under pressure. Language is far more than description. It's a set of instructions that your subconscious isn't only listening to as meaning, it's also listening to repetition, the tone, the rhythm, and what your body does when you say the sentence. See, most people are walking around with phrases they repeat under pressure. Phrases that function like automatic commands. They're not thoughts, they're literally commands. So the goal isn't positive thinking, the goal is to build a clean signal, because the sentence you repeat under stress becomes the life you rehearse. So if your system's running language that implies danger, defeat, or helplessness, it doesn't matter how big your vision is, your receiver just can't hold it. If your words trigger threat, your body will sabotage your future to preserve safety. So here's a quick test that we can do, a little bit of proof. Just repeat. So say, I'm behind. And then notice how your body feels. Now say, I'm building. And notice your body. The body doesn't argue, it reports. Same situation, different instruction. One compresses a system, and the other one organizes a system. That's linguistic alchemy. State shift through phrasing. I use a simple model. The soul can be broadcasting clarity all day. Your deeper knowing can be right there, but the human system, the receiver, can just be full of noise, of static. So this is not about becoming more spiritual, it's about reducing interference so the signal you already have becomes livable. In your language, what you say internally and out loud is one of the main sources of interference or coherence. And here's what I've come to understand. I wasn't failing. My nervous system was responding to the instructions it was receiving, mostly from my own internal language. My body would take what I wanted, what I was trying to do, and decide whether it felt safe enough to let that become real. If it didn't feel safe, it would default, not because it chose to, but because the receiver chose for me. Okay, here's why Shaa'Vihra is the missing piece. So most language work fails because it tries to change the subconscious with consciousness. That's like trying to reprogram the operating system by arguing with the monitor or your screen. The subconscious learns through pattern. What's repeated, what's rehearsed, what's linked to safety or threat. So if your language doesn't change your state, it doesn't change your life. And that's why Shaa'Vihra matters. Because Shaa'Vihra isn't built as an intellectual language first. It's built as sound with breath and structure. It's a tuning method. So instead of trying to convince the subconscious, you're entraining it. You're not asking your system to believe you, you're training it to hold you. And here's what makes it so different. So the apostrophe is a breath mark, a pause, a soft reset. Vowels are spoken open and longer, so the sound actually infuses. And you don't build sentences the normal way. You build energy through pattern, and often in a Fibonacci expansion or sequence. Because the subconscious doesn't respond to explanation, it responds to rehearsal. And if you don't change your state, it won't change your default. Now, here are 3 spell types. I'm going to give you 3 categories of phrases that quietly scripted my life. I call them spell types, not because it's magical, but because repeated language casts a pattern over your perception and decisions. So a spell type is basically this: a sentence that you repeat under pressure, that your nervous system treats like a command. All right, so the first one is finality spells or identity locks. And these are phrases that turn a moment into a permanent identity. All right, some obvious examples are I can't. This never works. Yeah, I'm just like this. I always messed up. I'm not consistent. I'm not disciplined. I'm not built for this. Yeah, I never follow through. I'm not good at whatever. I always end up back here. Right? Notice the pattern? That they don't describe what's happening. They declare who you are. So where it surfaced in my life, and here's a clean example. Actually, when I sat down to write this video script, 10 minutes into it, I hit friction or creativity freeze. And I hear the sentence, yeah, I can't focus. And what happened in my body was immediate. My chest, my whole body tightened, a little fatigued. And with that collapse, my body heard, shut it down. And the next thing you know, I'm scrolling, I'm snacking, and I'm just checking one thing. And essentially I disappear. That's the spell. Right? Not the phone, not the snack, the sentence that gave my system permission to exit. So here's how I reframed it. The reframe has one job: take identity language and convert it into capacity language. Now here's a couple examples. So we take I can't and we turn it into I can't hold that steadily yet. I can't focus. My focus is unstable right now. I can stabilize it. This never works. That approach hasn't worked yet. I'm adjusting. I'm not consistent. I'm building consistency through smaller reps. I always mess it up. I lose the thread under pressure. I can train stability. Okay, I'm not good at this. I'm in the early reps. Skill comes from repetition. I always end up here. Well, this is my default loop. Defaults can be rewritten. Now here's the real test. After you say the reframe, do you feel even 2% more space, even 2% more breath? That's a sign the receiver is shifting. Okay, here's the key aspect. By adding yet, you turn identity into capacity, and capacity can expand, whereas identity locks don't. So finality language turns a nervous system moment into a life sentence. Let's move on to the second spell, which is threat spells, or they're actually survival triggers. And these are the phrases that tell your body danger is now. They don't just describe stress, they activate stress. Right? So here's some examples. This is too much, or I'm screwed. I can't handle this. Everything's falling apart. This is bad. I'm behind. I'm running out. I can't breathe. So even if you don't say it, the system implies it. Notice the pattern. It's threat language, right? It collapses time. It creates now, urgency, tunnel vision. And the moment tunnel vision turns on, you lose sequence. So here's a real trigger that used to have a massive impact on me. I open the bank app, I see the balance of the number, and before I even think, my body does something. It immediately implodes. My chest tightens, my stomach drops. I get a little shame flash and a rush in the head, and the phrase arrives. Right? I don't have time. It's like, oh shit, this is bad. I'm screwed. And the body hears one thing: emergency. Now the nervous system is not interested in planning. It's not interested in strategy. It's interested in only one thing, and that is survival. So instead of sequence, you get spinning. Instead of problem solving, you get avoidance. Sometimes that avoidance looks like, not looking again, or distracting, or buying something small to change the feeling, shutting down or doing nothing, or going into frantic fix mode with no actual plan. And this is the key. See, money stress isn't only about the number, it's about what the number does to your receiver. And here's why threat language kills abundance flow. When money triggers threat, the system contracts. When the system contracts, you make smaller fear-based decisions. You don't think long-term. You don't think invest well. You don't negotiate cleanly. You don't create from clarity. So the abundance problem becomes a state problem. Your receiver is in threat, so it can't hold growth. And here are some ways to reframe that. So the goal here isn't to lie to yourself. It's to stop instructing the body to go into an emergency response. So here are a few rewrites that convert threat into sequence. Instead of saying this is too much, this is a lot of sensation I can regulate first. Instead of saying I don't have time, I need sequence, next step only. Or instead of saying I'm screwed, just say I'm under pressure, pressure needs a plan. Or instead of saying I can't handle this, I can handle one piece at a time. This is never going to change. Or instead of saying this is never going to change, this can change through consistent repetitions. Or instead of saying I can't breathe, just slow exhale and then next step. Now here's a money specific reframe. This number means I'm unsafe. So instead say this number is a snapshot. I can create the next snapshot. Because threat makes a number feel like a prophecy. But it's just a snapshot, and you're still the author of your next move. So here's a quick body check. After each reframe, don't ask, do I believe it? Ask, do I get 2% more breath? Do my shoulders drop 2%? Does the urgency drop 2%? And if that's yes, the receiver is starting to shift. And if the receiver shifts, sequence returns. Threat language doesn't just describe stress, it creates stress by instruction. And when stress becomes instruction, your future just has no choice but to get smaller. Then the third type of spell is self-erasure spells, that quiet self-abandonment. And these are the phrases that sound calm, reasonable, even mature at times, but they quietly train you to disappear. They don't trigger fight or flight, they trigger self-erasure. So here are some examples. It doesn't matter. Whatever. I'll just deal with it. It's fine. Yeah, I don't want to be difficult. I don't care. And often that really means I care too much. It's not worth it. I'm overreacting. It's probably my fault. I don't want to make a thing of it. Yeah, forget it. Let's just move on. If you notice the pattern, threat spells say danger is now. Self-erasure spells say my truth is unsafe to have. Okay, here's a quick example. Your partner says something that hits you, or a friend crosses a boundary, and you feel it. It doesn't feel good. It's tight. It's hot, and yet you swallow it. So you do the quick math. If I say something, there might be tension. And if I say nothing, it stays smooth. So you choose smooth, and you say, yeah, it's fine. But what you really meant was, yeah, I'm now leaving myself. And here's why this is dangerous. You don't feel the cost immediately. The cost shows up later as either distance, resentment, numbness, passive aggression, loss of intimacy, or that feeling of, I'm here, but I'm not really here. Because every time you erase yourself, your body learns connection requires self-abandonment. Right? The mature sounding trap. And this is the sneaky part. Self-erasure often sounds like emotional intelligence. It can sound like, I'm being the bigger person, or I'm not making drama, I'm staying peaceful. But sometimes it's not peace. Sometimes it's silenced used as protection. And protection's fine until it becomes your personality. So here are some ways to reframe it. What's important is that the goal isn't conflict, the goal is presence. You're not trying to attack anyone, you're trying to stay connected to yourself while you stay in relationship. So instead of it's fine, try it's not fine yet, I need a minute. Or instead of responding with whatever, I want to try to respond from clarity, not heat. Or instead of saying I'll just deal with it, I'm going to name what I need. So, and instead of saying it doesn't matter, you can respond with it matters, I'm staying with myself here. Or instead of I don't care, I care. I just don't know how to say it yet. Okay, so, or in the last one I'll use is forget it. Right? I'm not ready to drop it. I need to come back to this. So the one sentence boundary, if you want one sentence that saves a ton of relationships, it's this. I'm not attacking you. I'm naming something so I don't leave myself. And that line disarms escalation while keeping truth present. So here's a quick body check. After you use a reframe, don't ask, was I right? Ask, do I feel more here? Do I feel less split? Is my chest more open, even by 2%? So if yes, You didn't just communicate better, you stopped abandoning yourself. Self-erasure language doesn't look like sabotage, it looks like maturity. But over time, it trains one message: my truth costs too much. And that's what kills intimacy. So most limiting beliefs aren't beliefs. They're sentences you keep saying under pressure. And you can change sentences. All right, let's jump into step one. Catch the collapse phrase. The moment you feel contraction, whether it be a tight chest, your jaw being tense, or a speeding mind, ask, what sentence just ran? Because the sentence usually shows up before the spiral finishes forming. It's the first domino. And that sentence is the script. It's not your personality, it's not your destiny, it's just the script. And it's almost always short. 2 to 6 words like, I can't, this is too much, I'm fine, I'm behind, or I don't have time. Those tiny phrases are not tiny to the nervous system. They're instructions. Okay, that takes us into step 2. Translate it into a coherent phrase. So a coherent phrase does 3 things. It acknowledges reality, it reduces threat, and it points towards the next coherent action. So here are a few universal ones. I don't need certainty. I need stability. Or I'm safe enough to take one step. I can meet this without abandoning myself. I can slow down and stay present. So the key is coherence phrases don't hype you up. They give your system sequence. Because when sequence returns, the receiver stops spinning. Now, when you pair it with Shaa'Vihra, this is the subconscious lever. So here's the upgrade. You take the English coherence phrase and you pair it with a short Shaa'Vihra anchor that your body learns through sound. Because Shaa'Vihra gives you breath and resonance built in. And the subconscious doesn't just learn from meaning, it learns from pattern, repetition, and state. So this isn't believe the words, this is train the receiver. So in part 3, this is where it becomes executable. Think of it like a chain. English is the meaning, Shaa'Vihra the sound anchor, and then your body is the breath state. And you keep it short enough to use mid-trigger. So here's an example, the money trigger with a bank balance. So the collapse phrase could be, I'm screwed. The coherent phrase, this is pressure. Pressure needs a plan. And the Shaa'Vihra anchor, Na Shen Ram. So when you combine that with the body cue of long exhale, shoulders drop, and eyes widen slightly, what you're doing is you're tuning panic into sequence. Okay, here's another example, the creative freeze. So the collapse phrase is, I can't focus. The coherent phrase would be, my focus is unstable. I can stabilize it. And then when it's added with Shaa'Vihra anchor, which would just be Shaa'Vihra. Right? The body cues, inhale and speak on exhale. So last example I'll give you is a relationship trigger. So the collapse phrase could be, it's fine. The coherent phrase is, it's not fine yet. I need a minute. And the Shaa'Vihra anchor could be Ta Murai. So the body cue would be hand to the sternum, slower breath, and then speak. So the 2% rule, and it keeps it honest. After you say the coherent phrase, the anchor, don't ask, do I believe this? Ask, did my system soften by 2%? Did I get 2% more breath? Did urgency drop 2%? And that's enough. Because you're not trying to jump from panic to bliss. You're trying to move from collapse to choice. On speaking Shaa'Vihra, there really aren't any set rules, but basic guidance, I guess, or a rule if you want to call it. The apostrophe is a breath mark. So when you see the apostrophe, that's a pause, a soft reset, and you just don't rush through it. The vowels are open and longer. So you're not clipping syllables, you're letting sound resonate in the body. And you really kind of speak it in as a wave as opposed to a sentence. This isn't normal speech, it's resonance. So think of it as creating a wave of energy going through your chest cavity. So let's do it for 45 seconds. Okay, I'll have you inhale for 4, and then exhale for 8. And then on the end of the exhale, when you've let all the air out of your chest, drop into a still point. So no thought, no motion, no breath, just absolutely still. All right, so let's do it for 45 seconds. Inhale for 4 seconds, and then exhale for 8 seconds, emptying your lungs. And then drop into what I call the still point, which is no thought, no motion, no breath, and just either think or say signal. All right, and then we'll do it again. We'll inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 8, emptying the lungs. Drop into the still point, no thought, no breath, no motion, and either think or say presence. All right, we'll do it one more time. Inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 8, emptying the lungs. Drop into the still point, and again, either think or say one clear step. And now we'll add Shaa'Vihra as an anchor. So we'll inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 8, drop into the still point when your lungs are empty, and just say or think Shaa'Vihra. All right, again, one last time. Inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 8, drop into the still point, and say or think Shaa'Vihra. Now notice, did your body soften even slightly? That's not theory, that's tuning. Breath changes state. Still point is the state. And words spoken from still point carry coherence, authority instead of effort. So here's where this becomes very usable. Right? It's 3 a.m., you wake up and your mind starts running. Instead of feeding it with more language, you do one cycle. Inhale for 4, exhale for 8, pause, Shaa'Vihra. You're not negotiating with the mind, you're changing your state. Once you change your state, sleep follows. So here's the whole thing in one line. Don't fight your life with willpower. Change the instruction your nervous system is receiving. Pick one collapse phrase you use every week, replace it with one coherent phrase, pair it with one Shaa'Vihra anchor, rehearse it daily for 7 days, and then watch what changes. Right? So you go from body to choices to timing to outcomes. You change the choices, you change timing, you change the outcomes. And if you want to go deeper, track your language like signal hygiene, because it is. So, does changing your inner language change your life? Yeah, because your life isn't built out of your intentions. It's built out of your defaults, what your system does under pressure. Your language is one of the fastest ways to change those defaults, because the sentence you repeat becomes the state you rehearse. And the state you rehearse becomes your choices, your timing, and your outcomes. So don't aim for perfect. Aim for one clean upgrade. Pick one phrase you use every week. When you get stressed, swap it for a coherent phrase that gives you sequence. Pair it with a Shaa'Vihra anchor like Shaa'Vihra, which means love in motion. Set as one expression with the breath mark, and rehearse it for 7 days. You don't need to believe it, you just need your body to soften by 2%. And that 2% is the beginning of a different life because it's the beginning of a different receiver. If you want help doing this in a structured way, I made a free 60-day manifestation PDF. It's basically a daily practice to track your collapse phrases, rewrite them, and train new defaults. It's free, and the link is in the description. So test the signal, keep what clears you, live what holds under pressure. Thank you.